So many debuts, returns, new signings, a whole bunch of stuff we got to talk about, plus so much more. Yeah, guys, get ready. This is the Ango Show. Yes. Welcome back to TAS. So much to discover, uncover. You know what I'm saying. There's just a lot of things happening in pro wrestling. We got to talk about it. Don't forget, we're giving away this championship belt at 100,000 subscribers. If you want a chance to win this and multiple other prizes, you should probably click subscribe. Without further ado, Jack Perry showed up at Battle of the Valley. And, he attacked Shota Umino, and this was a very, very big moment for Battle of the Valley because Jack Perry hasn't been seen on AEW television or pretty much anywhere else since he was suspended after All In due to the backstage stuff with CM Punk. Now, obviously, Jack Perry going to New Japan Pro Wrestling is sparking a ton of conversation on social media, and I've had some people actually ask me, what do I think? Now, during yesterday's TNA Hard to Kill pay-per-view post-show, I was talking about TNA. And obviously, I seen this pop up on Twitter. I said, look, I got to go back and watch Battle of the Valley. So that's what I did late last night. I watched the show. I thought it was a great show. But more specifically, I actually enjoyed this segment. And I'm not the biggest Jack Perry fan. I personally think Jungle Boy, the gimmick, is way better than what they've done with Jack Perry as a heel. I was a very big believer in the fact that the Jurassic Express should not break up, and Luchasaurus, Jack Perry, and Marco Stunt should all be together because from the OG AEW days, that was a very fun faction. Now, at the same time, I could fully admit that I thought this was a great appearance for Jack Perry. This feels like a big deal. It feels like it's giving Jack Perry some substance. And it feels like there could be a lot of things that AEW can do here because Jack Perry attacked Shota Umino. He put on a scapegoat armband. And in addition to that, Jack Perry ripped up his AEW contract. Now, this is obviously a work, but there clearly is a storyline here that AEW will be building, and by working with New Japan Pro Wrestling, they'll be able to tell a really good story. I think this actually has a lot of potential. This is something that I'm definitely intrigued by, even though I'm not the biggest Jack Perry fan. I don't think, heel Jack Perry makes sense, but this could be the thing that changes my mind, and I think we need to normalize that, right? But personally speaking, I think this is going to be a very fun story. I think for me as a person who likes characters, I think this is a little bit more of a Jack Perry that I'm intrigued to see because the stuff that he was doing with CM Punk, backstage, obviously that took a lot away from what was happening on TV. But with Jack Perry on TV, I just feel like the heel character never really got over to me. That's just a personal opinion, and I'm just being completely transparent when I say I'm giving this a chance, and I hope they can make it work. But visually speaking, perception is reality. This felt like a really big deal, and it's cool to see that it happened in New Japan. Obviously, how does he work his way back into AEW? Only time will tell, and that's where I think the intrigue is for the storytelling. Guys, Naomi, a.k.a. Trinity Fatu, we saw her drop the TNA Knockouts Championship belt to Jordynne Grace at the pay-per-view. There was a lot of questions as to whether or not Naomi would be staying in TNA for a little bit longer until she jumps back to WWE, but it looks like after last night, Trinity Fatu, a.k.a. Naomi, had her final send-off. So those reports and those rumors that we were talking about in previous videos about Naomi returning to the WWE, potentially at the Royal Rumble, that does appear to be the case. Now, personally speaking, if you watched my TNA Hard to Kill post-show, I thoroughly enjoyed Jordynne Grace versus Trinity Fatu, and I was actually a little bit shocked by this decision because I felt like you could have just had Trinity Fatu drop the belt, on the TV tapings or whatnot. But it was very clear TNA is going into a new era. She's not going to be sticking with them. And just a very emotional moment between her and Jordynne Grace, and then obviously walking out to the fans and everything like that. But here's the thing, man. Trinity Fatu came to TNA, and she could have done the easy thing and gone to AEW and got paid and whatnot. She could have done that. But the cool thing is, man, she went to TNA, a company that's always been great with their women's division. They put her front and center. They let her do her thing creatively. They let her wrestle and have great matches. It didn't have to be this thing where, she overstayed her welcome or anything like that. Like, she was there. She did her thing. She helped out the women's division that is already thriving. And on top of that, man, she got to carry the gold and be a big name for them. And now TNA is ready to move on. You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of people look at name value when it comes to signings. And I think this put a little bit more credibility to her. Because, she could have gone to AEW. She could have gone elsewhere. If she wanted to go to Japan, she could have gone to Japan and followed in Mercedes' footsteps. But it seemed like she was willing to go out there and it keeps the wrestling industry healthy. Not everybody needs to be in WWE and AEW, but she wrestled her last match for TNA. Now she's headed back to WWE. So for those who are questioning those reports as to whether or not it would happen, I think we all got our answer. And, the good thing is WWE has been fixing their women's division as of late. It's not perfect by any means, but it is clearly something that they've been working on, and you see more screen time for the women. You see more matches for the women, more storylines for the women, and it doesn't always involve the World Championship, which is great. But I hope WWE understands that Trinity coming back to them, she cannot just be another person. I'm being so honest when I say this. She cannot just be another wrestler for WWE, because that is an issue that I have when I look at talent who have gone elsewhere and actually genuinely looked like a top talent and was perceived as a top talent, only to come back to a major company and not be perceived the same way. Where do they put her in for WrestleMania? I don't know. Obviously, her husband works in WWE, so it does make a lot of sense for her to be there. I don't question that. And I don't doubt that it's a bad fit or a good fit or anything like that. I think she'll fit fine with WWE, but I want to see her actually do something great. And you know what? Who knows how they go about it? I'm super intrigued by it. And guys, that leads us to all of the debuts and signings. So here's what you missed. Dolph Ziggler ended TNA Hard to Kill in a legendary fashion. Honestly, it was a very good moment. Holy shit chance to drown out the show. Moose won the world championship. Nick Nemeth comes out, goes to the crowd, rips off the shirt. It says TNA. TNA announced that he is in the company. And then, of course, we got the debut of Dana Brooke, who is now going by the name of Ash by Elegance. Very intrigued to see what they do there. I see a lot of people are comparing her to Timeless Toni Storm. I know visually speaking, like, they don't have the same hairstyles, but they got the same hair colors, and they're both elegantly dressed. I don't think the characters are going to be the same, but we'll see how that all goes down. And then Mustafa Ali, Battle of the Valley. It was revealed that Mustafa Ali has challenged Takahashi, and that's going to be taking place on April 12th in Chicago, which is happening at the Wintrust Arena. So, Mustafa Ali is obviously a Chicago guy. He's going to New Japan Pro Wrestling. Keep in mind, at the same time, Battle of the Valley, Matt Riddle had his match, and it was a tag team match. But for Matt Riddle, a lot of people were wondering, okay, who could be his tag partner? Could it be Dolph Ziggler? Because they were obviously similarly dressed in New Japan. But Matt Riddle's tag team partner was Jeff Cobb, which in a weird way, it was kind of spoiled a minute before with Matt Riddle's entrance. But nonetheless, Battle of the Valley, TNA, Collision, Battle of the Belts. There was just so much stuff happening last night. Now we're starting to see some new places, some new faces going to new places. And I just want to give credit where it's due. Dolph Ziggler and Mustafa Ali could have gone to AEW. This is what everybody does when they leave WWE, or almost everybody. But instead, they went to different companies. They're doing something different, and I like that. I like the fact that New Japan, Nick Nemeth showing up in New Japan was great, and honestly, I didn't think he would show up in TNA because of it. But it's cool because TNA works with New Japan. So, Dolph Ziggler, Nick Nemeth, he could work both places. Mustafa Ali going, having a match in ROH, having a match in AEW, having a match in TNA, having a match in New Japan, having a match in GCW. Like, these are things that make the wrestling industry more exciting, and it just helps the industry. Forget about your tribalism. Forget about what company you love and hate. Just understand, when a talent decides to go to other companies that aren't necessarily the major companies, it helps those smaller companies, and that's what the wrestling industry needs. So very cool stuff. I'm very intrigued to see what happens with all of these guys that were released. Riddle, Ziggler, Ali, just some really cool things. I would like to see Elijah show up in TNA, and I would like to see Riddick Moss show up in TNA, but we'll see. Obviously, a lot of things could happen between now and then. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching The Ango Show. Oh, yes.